G'day, this is Max Drake. I want to talk to you about bookmarklets. Now, bookmarklets are like bookmarks, except you can actually add actions to them. So, whereas you actually just, in a browser, you actually have a bookmark here, which is basically a link with a name that you've added here. And when you press that link, it goes through and opens a certain page. So if we just go through and we've got a page like here, which is a Wikipedia page, and I'm using that because it doesn't have a big overload of stuff on it. I'm going to press this particular button through here and something will happen in a minute. We're just going to go to this and you'll see that suddenly the background's changed to black and the text is starting to go a lot grayer so that it's easier to read on the eyes. So this is just an example of a bookmarklet, and what a normal bookmark will actually have, if we just look at that, is that we have a URL. So it's going to https google.com or whatever going here. So that's going to the Gmail. If we go and look at a bookmarklet though, if we edit that, it doesn't have an HTTPS. What it has is JavaScript. So that means that starts to tell you a little bit of information. The little bit of information it's telling you is it's not going off to a website. All that is just a string of code. And what it's saying is it's some JavaScript code and I'm going to run something over here. So what this says is not going anywhere. It's staying where it is. So with a normal one, what they'll do, the browsers are actually designed to actually go to a URL. They go onto that site and they upload some HTML code, which will be a lot of your text and your visuals, your CSS, which will be your formatting type things and the colors and the titles and stuff like that, and what style to actually put on the pages and things, and also some JavaScript for some things like buttons. So if you click a button, it does an action and something happens and wow, and off it goes. So what this has done, what this little button here, and I'm just going to do it there, is it's gone and injected some code onto this page. So the page is uploaded onto my computer, and then following that, so if we actually just look, Control-Shift-I, this here is looking at the inspector of this site here. So it's going to show us the dev tools of what the code is that's actually come up. So if we actually want to look at this particular item here, we can just go inspect that item. And it'll go down and look at the bit of script that relates to that little bit of an item through there. So if we wanted to target that and then suddenly make that flashing or do something or turn pink and sing at us or something, we can target that with a bit of JavaScript and go and say, okay, then now go, when you see that, flash it 4 times and then go and play this WAV file through here, etc., and do something like that. So what we're doing is once it's uploaded, we then go and do something to it. So if I just do a refresh here, what the refresh do is it's going to go back and recall those files and bring them back up again. So this one here, I can suddenly say, well, this one here is just suddenly saying, I've getting a bit of eye strain. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that it's easier to read if I'm doing lots and lots of reading of stuff that I actually want it in a dark mode. So I can do that. So it's going to hit it, and it might hit it twice, and then it's going to often do it. I'm just going to close that out there for the moment. And do that. So it'll actually come back, should be doing its bit. There's nothing else up there. Why is that? So there it's come through. So we've got that bit of code through there. But the thing is, if I go and click down to the and follow a link, I go onto another page. And when I go onto the next page, it suddenly goes back to the white screen again. So what can we do about that? We can do some things at this point in time, but so far we're just tweaking with some things. Another one that I can actually use, which I think is quite a handy, useful little tool, is one called highlight. So let's have a page, and then we just put and. We're just going to put that there. And so anytime it's got and, it's just going to highlight those things. So if we were looking for a specific word through a bit of text or on a particular web page, and this will do it right the way down the whole of the web page. So it's just gone onto that web page and done all of that. So that's quite a handy thing to actually go and do some searches. Another one that I might do is that I want to actually highlight that bit of text, and I want to go and look that up on Wiki. As it is, I'm in Wiki at the moment, but this is just an example. Or I want to look it up on DuckDuckGo. So what I can actually do is I can highlight that text, I can press this other bit of script through here. It opens a new tab, and it's just doing a search for me. So this is like a Google search or something like that. Now I started thinking, oh, that's really handy. I want to get that resource. So now I want to email it to myself. Now I can actually hit another button here. And this is another bit of JavaScript that will now open up this. Now there's one that does this automatically already, that you've one called email a link to this page inside Firefox already. It's a little add-in or something. I think it's just part of the customization. But that one doesn't give the email address. This one injects my email address into here straight away. So I know which email it's going to. It puts the title into there, and then it puts the link through to there. And then if I just go Control Enter, off it does. So with just pressing that one button up on there and using Control Enter, I've done two key or a mouse click and a keystroke, and I've just sent an email and sent myself some information, which is quite handy to actually have. So there are some practical things in here. Another one which I find really frustrating is map ones. You get an address and then next to it says view on map, and a lot of the time the map is either really small or else it's got a whole load of formatting, or it doesn't do satellite or things like that, and it's sort of got a lot of ads of other people's stuff like that. I like Google Maps. And so on this one here, if I actually had an address through there, in fact I'm going to not have an address, and I'm going to click on this one here, and what this says, I haven't got an email address on here, write in an address, and then it will go and open up a tab in Google Maps and actually go and look at that address through there. So this is handy from the point of view is that you could actually have got an address in an email that you wanted to look to, so you can actually go into the email, copy that address, come into here, just hit that button there, it comes into the empty box, and again with the Whippy and the DuckDuckGo, all of those work as well. If I haven't got anything selected, it'll come up with a pop-up box so that I can actually do those sorts of things. There it is. So those are really handy tools for me of just going. So if you're doing a lot of things in the web browsers and stuff like that. The second thing is this eye strain. So if we come into this one here, this is something that I do find a bit of a nuisance. Oh, sorry. So just as a little aside from there, where'd you get bookmarks from? If you just look up Bookmarklets coming through here, there's a whole load on a lot of sites that if you just find one here that you find interesting, you could just drag it, href, and drag that one up onto and drag it into a point where it can be done, and then you just click on it, and so that's doing a word count. I don't know if it's going to action or not on that one there, and I'm still running that by the look of it, so I should get out of that. I should refresh that page. There's this little app, or there's a little one that does asteroids. You'll find it when you start looking at Bookmarklets, and it's a sort of a fun. It's not working in here because my OBS seems to be consuming an awful lot of resources on this computer at the moment. So there's this one that does it, there's this one, and there's another one. This particular site, SquareFree, is really good because it has topical ones, so some to do with text and data, some to do with zapping, and a zap color one here. If I just press that zap color, I think I've done it already. It would have done something. I start collecting them under a subdirectory, and there's some nice ones to do with tables. So if there's a table on the project, it'll actually transpose a table. It can actually put the numbers on the lines. It can actually do a sort table and things like that. So there's some really handy things. And I do find sometimes tables inside web pages can be a bit frustrating if they're not in the right way around, so to actually do things. So you can pull some of these in, try them out, and you're suddenly saying, oh, there's a basis of something really useful that I can work with there. So if we just go back and just look at some of the JavaScript through here. So normally with the JavaScript, you would actually have it in a whole series of lines. You would actually have a command, get some selection or do something with something, and then you put a semicolon at the end. So that's a line break, and then we're doing another bit of code, which is here, and then we do another bit of code and a line break down through there. With Bookmarklets, it's all got to be on one line, and it's got to start off with JavaScript colon. And then you actually put, so you can actually write it like this, but just stick it all together and make sure there's no white spaces in between. Another thing that I actually found with some of the ones, which put me off to a certain extent with that, is that This one, when I was actually hitting some of those ones, like going and searching Wiki, what it was doing was staying on the same tab and just going off to Wiki and doing that lookup. So you didn't actually have it comparison of what you were reading the article, and you were just looking at it. It just became such a distraction when you had to go back to the original article, refresh that page and look at it again. So mine was actually looking at, there's this location. Now this is the frustrating thing with some of these, is because it's in one screen, when you're looking at the code, it just falls off the edge. So what I do is I just break it so that it comes onto the line. So it's got this location HTTPS plus escape void. What I ended up having to do was put this window open with curly brackets at the front, then the close brackets around the location and the escape one, and then that word find. It opened a new tab. Just a little point on that one there. Firefox automatic, or its default, is if you open a Windows open, it opens a new tab. So the default option there, that some browsers might have a default option of opening a new window, which can be suddenly opening another instance of Firefox or Chrome or something like that. So you've got to go into your settings if it starts doing that. So instead of actually just opening a new tab, it goes and opens a new browser again. You might want to see what your setups are for your default values for those. So that's actually the code that's actually going in there, and some of the strings could be quite long as to what they do. So that's one there. Now this one here, those ones there sit on your computer inside that location. So instead of looking for a URL, it's just finding a bit of code and running that code. But what, say you're developing something over time and you're suddenly thinking, well, I'm going to make it do these snazzy things. It's going to make all these different colors and go pink and blue and sing me a song and do all of this sort of stuff. But I want to share it with other people in the office to do a whole load of other things. Or it does an automating filling out form, but then that form changes slightly. So I've got to update my thing and then I've got to go around and share it with everybody else. One of the things that you can do, and this is one of the ones that to do with this asteroids one, if we go and look at that bookmark there, what you'll find with that one is that they are actually keeping this on, so it's a bit of JavaScript called kickars.js, so that's a file, and they keep it on this server. So they've got it on another website. So what that says is it will go and run that script to actually go and load up the latest JavaScript to run that script with. So it's that. Now here's another thing. You're actually injecting JavaScript into the page, and so you could be some malicious code going through here. So you do want to find things which are reputable, or you've got to look at the code line just to see that it's not doing anything nasty, like trying to inject a keylogger into your programs or something like that. So just be careful. When you're doing the JavaScript stuff, it can be a bit nasty. Now, when I was coming through into here, I was saying, right, when I come to the Go tab and I go to the next layer down or onto another page, whereas I'd actually had the thing all dark to begin with, when I go to the next page, it suddenly goes light again. So how can I stop that happening? And how do I have to go and click this button every single time? Well, then in the article, I talk about this in a thing here called Greasemonkey. And this is one which you can actually set up as a plugin on your computer. I'm using one called Tampermonkey because it seems to be more popular than Greasemonkey, or more people are using it. So therefore, hopefully there's a bit more code out there that I can actually go and use and modify. So on this one here, I've got it disabled at the moment, but I'm now going to enable it. So what that has got is a bit of JavaScript. So what it says is go and look on certain pages. Now this one here is called Save Your Eyes. Now what it says, if I go to a couple of the news sites that I use, if I go to those news sites, run that Save Your Eyes, which is make the background black and make the text a light grey so that it's easier on your eyes. And you can use wildcards on there. So I'm saying going to the bbc.com /wildcard, which is the asterisk one, and that means every other page underneath that main page, you can use that here. And so now with Wikipedia, if I come on to any of the Wikipedia ones, you'll see that they've actually automatically updated, because that happens automatically. So if I now go on to a different page, it will actually come through in dark screen, because basically as it's loading up the rest of the stuff, it just injects that before it actually displays it. So my bit of JavaScript is actually in there now at the moment. I can easily just come up here and turn off those, or I can turn off an individual. So I've got an installed user script, I've got a couple here, and I can enable and disable one so you can test a few of the things out. So if you're uncomfortable with stuff, you can actually review some of the codes coming through there, and these sites seem to have ones which are quite good. The one with the asteroids one, which I was actually talking through there, again, if you trust the site or trust some of the things, using things like that, that's going and causing a bit of script. So unless you actually call that script and go and look at it to say, is there anything malicious in there, you may want to check. Your browser blocker thing might actually be stopping some of that. Antivirus might be doing some of that anyway. But just be aware that there is that scenario for things to actually happen. So there are some useful tools out there. Initially, I thought fun, but not very practical. Now, if you look at a lot of my folders, I've got quite a few articles or bookmarks in them. But these ones I keep up at the top because they're so accessible and so useful for me that I use all the time. So I find they're good. So you can just drag some of these out through. You can test them out. If there's ones that work for you, try them out. But I do find, since I'm using, well, I suppose with the way things are, people are using the browsers so much more, these can be useful and productive tools to use. Now, just on that, another one that I started to look at, I suddenly thought with the Tampermonkey and things like that, with all of them, you can write your own code. And I started to write my own code towards one which was filling out forms. So I actually had to go and look at the developer's toolbar at the bottom and find out what the code was or what the element was that I was trying to do, and get document and get element by ID and all of that sort of thing. And it was getting pretty tedious, and I was getting quite frustrated with it because I couldn't get it to work, do what I want. And then I suddenly thought, well, a lot of other people have been doing this sort of stuff as well. So I sort of stepped back a little bit and thought, well, if I actually wanted to automate filling out forms and things like that, and each form is different. One says first one says first and last name, and this, that, and the other. And there's certain ones that I use all the time, and it's the same company because I'm watching webinars and things like that, and I have to fill out all the same details, that I can save that. But what I actually found, instead of actually writing my own code for this, there's actually auto form filler apps or add-ins inside Firefox, inside Chrome, all of those. So they've already been pre-built. So there's no point in causing yourself an awful lot of grief trying to do something when it's already built. It might be 95% and it might work, and fill out 3/4 of the form that you actually want. And if you're doing that sort of repetition, you first of all look and see if somebody else has built something first and then do it. Now the Tampermonkey is good because it actually injects that before it opens. So for me, a lot of the news sites that I work, they work well. Other ones don't work as well. This works on some of the ones, the Tampermonkey, but it doesn't work on things like I tried using Google Sheets. When I open up a whole load of Google Sheets, what it does is it makes the background black, but the text was also black, so I couldn't actually see anything. I actually had these sheets, Google spreadsheets, and I couldn't do anything on them at all. So I actually had to go back and turn them off and get rid of them. I also found that was also in my blog site. I used Blogger on one of them, and that one I was finding wasn't working very well. It doesn't do that. Again, it did the black text on the black thing. So some worked, some didn't. So most probably I could get it to work on the Blogger, and I can most probably get it into work in Google Sheets. I would need to do an extra bit of coding or adapt some of the coding from that initial script that I'd actually got. So I'd most probably have to go through and go and find that installed script, make a copy of it. So in here, if I actually just click on that, it'll actually show me the editor with the code in there and what it's actually doing. And I'd most probably have to go and adapt that so that it did something else and call it a new one. And with this, you actually need this sort of header block so that which actually it takes the title from inside here. So this has to be done in a certain way, but that's just playing with it. So in some ways, you are injecting code into your pages, but if I just turn that off there again and just go back through and disable that and then just did a refresh, what's being pulled through is going to be exactly as the website was built to actually display. So you can do things, you can manipulate stuff on here if you're always going to certain sites and you want it to stretch. One of the add-ins for this is the GitHub only shows the characters within a certain bounds and there's gaps either side. It'll make it full width page to actually make them easier to actually do. So you can actually take some of the CSS and suddenly saying, don't put this to the side, go and put that at the bottom. I only actually want to read this in full screen mode or something like that. So you've got most of your content inside there. So I think it is a productivity tool from for little things, and this is what I actually find. You find you waste an awful lot of. I don't know if that workout's going to work on this. We'll see if it does or not. Wait a minute, it came up there. Sometimes it's doing something down there. It's not popping up. Sometimes you're doing a whole lot of repetitive stuff and you've just got these little things that you're doing, like me. If I was looking up on Google Maps, I ended up with an icon up here specifically for Google Maps because it wasn't accessible, and I was suddenly finding that I was getting all these really annoying maps that I found really useless to use. That's my preferred one. So now I've got a little setup one coming through here. I can just select those things, and that to me saves a whole lot of messing around of doing a whole lot of things with that. I've never really got those flows right. And again, looking up things and sending them to the emails. I find I do this an awful lot, and I was using this one, email a link of this page. I was doing that all the time. And so this is just taking one extra step out of it. So it just makes it that extra little bit quicker. And I find that quite pleasant as well. One of the things which, again, is these kind of trivial little things that you find are useful. Like one of mine on through here is just learning that if I do use 1, 2, and I'm going to do one off, and then if I go, say it's got 2 on there, and if I take 2 off, it goes back to what it was. Oh, sorry, it's got 1 on there again. And if I can go 3, so I can different color things. So if I've got a whole lot of notes, so the ones where I've got a lot of things that I've sent myself through here, like that Bass Straight one or the musical one or subscribers or whatever, that one I can actually put as a highlight as if it's that level of importance, or another one might actually have level 5, it's got that level of importance. It's there. I may want to look at it. I've got that reference to that information, and if I haven't used it after a couple of days, I'll go and blow it out. It's just a combination of just finding lots of little simple things to do, to speed up your workday. And a lot of them are really quite trivial. Like one of the other ones that I've just been playing with quite recently is the Alt left arrow, which splits the screen, so that I can then select something there and I can just go out right arrow through to there, and then on that one there, I think it's that, and an up arrow opens it full up again when it's supposed to. Oh, there it is, it's opening up. I found there was all of these ones, there's already some hotkeys already for them. There's one called Power Toys, I think, that does those screen splitting things and stuff like that. That's just another one. I've got quite a few little auto hotkey scripts that I've got in my tray. I've got another couple of things, the green shot for the images, and then I've got my executor coming through here, and I've got my timesheet ones coming through here. And I've also got my auto hotkey pop-up ones that you're sort of trying to keep the tools where they need to be. And these ones, in my browser, this is all I'm doing in the browser. And these keys actually just work for that. So I don't have to think, oh, what hotkey or anything I have. I've just got these sitting up here ready to go. So having the tools for the right program that you're in is useful to have them, that you don't suddenly have to start using other ones, and you can use the other ones for where they're the most effective. The one that I find with this one that I use an awful lot is my executor, and I just go for a YouTube, and then I can go, what was that one called? Tampermonkey. I find this absolute brilliant one. It just opens a new tab each time inside YouTube, and it's got that search already there. An absolute no-brainer. And all I've got to do is type U at the beginning, or I've got to type D if I want to go and do a DuckDuckGo search or something like that. That's a productivity one, and that's an out and spacebar one that I find brilliant. So these ones here, which are just JavaScript, a little bit of injection of stuff inside the code, or it's actually opening up a page and doing a search for you, or it's sending an email, or it's taking you to a map or something like that. It just takes 3 steps out of maybe, you know, it's a 5-step process. You're only actually doing 2 steps instead of 5. If you're doing them all the time, you just want something that just speed up your day and make it a little bit easier doing those things. I find it really frustrating when I'm actually having to waste my time trying to do things which I know should be done very, very quickly. So I hope that's been of interest to you. And I hope it actually makes you a bit more productive in the way that you work. For these codes here, they're actually in the bookmark inside here. You can just take this script inside the code area through here, take that and just create a new icon through there. So you just add a bookmark, call it what you want, and then just paste that code into the URL link, and then it should fire up straight away. These ones, really, the only things that I've done on this is some of them, I think, for the email one, you'll see my email in some of them. Other ones is you'll see, look like that one's got the mail to, so you put whatever mail to your one is for that. For the other ones, I think they're just opening in a new phrase, so they're just window open for these other ones through there. So that's the addition of that. They're done by these people through here who've created these ones. So sorry, and this was just one last one that I want to do. What you can actually do is, if there's just little trivial things that you want to text, this one here, Mr. Cole's one through here, is you can convert this one here to a bookmark. You can take that link up to there, drag it up. Did that go into there or didn't it? Sometimes it does, sometimes there it is. And if you hit on that link, it's coming up with the alert box and just having test into there. So you can put your bit of script into here of what you want to do. And just remember, it's got to be JavaScript, and it'll actually write the code down here, and then you can drag that link up and rename that or do whatever you want to do with it and do it. So that's a good way. If it's just little simple things that you something, I wonder if I can do that and try it out. And if there's a quick way of doing it, you know, try it. If the button doesn't work or it does do exactly what you want, brilliant. Anyway, I'll put all of those things. All of those things are in the article, and there are links there. I'll most probably put it in the comments part of the video below. Thank you very much for watching, and you know, I hope your life is becoming easier from some of these videos. Thumbs up, or else op en je haar.